Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome back to the second hour of LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy, and I am back in the chair with the Delta authors on tour. We took a break from it yesterday, but we're squarely back on track today. And today I have Sorors, Trina, Pitts-Khalfani, and the beautiful, lovely, adorable Erica Bradley. Hello, darlings.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, it's so nice to see y'all.
Thank you.
It's good to be seen. Yes.
Let me tell you, I have been enjoying these authors. We started the tour on the show last Friday. And so every day I've had a group of Sorors on talking about their literary expressions, their books, self-help books, all the things. And it's been a wonderful experience. So talk about why you all feel compelled to write the stories that you wrote. Now, Trina, your book is a self-empowerment book.
Yes.
And Erica, yours is a children's book.
Yes.
I don't have the books in front of me, so if you have your book, put it up. But I have it on the flyer that we've been sending around. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So tell me what has driven you to write these books? Like, what was it that you woke up one day and you had this burning desire to write this book?
Who do you want to go first?
Go ahead, Trina.
Okay. Well, I've always wanted to write a book. I've been a holistic practitioner for many years now, but I started off as a student and as a client. And so in 2020, in February, I remember looking at my journal and I had written for the year. I said, I used a prayer from Course in Miracles and I said, God, where would you have me to go? What would you have me to do? What would you have me to say and to whom? And then March, quarantine hit, COVID-19 hit. And so I used that opportunity to write the book because that was a period that I was forced to slow down. And so I just wanted to comprise my experiences over the years as a student of holistic alternative health, then working with family members and clients and just putting it all together. And I used that opportunity to do that.
That sounds good. Erica, what made you write this children's book?
Well, I wish I was as organized as Trina is, because that wasn't my situation at all. To be honest with you, it was an idea that just popped in my head while going on this journey with my family. At the time that I started writing it, my daughter was very young and we were trying to get anything green in her mouth, and I had to find creative ways to make it fun. And then one day we started a garden. And so one day we picked the vegetables from the garden and she was standing there with her arms full of these vegetables. And I could see that the light bulb had gone on. She was proud to eat the things that, her hands had actually participated in growing. And I started writing little lines on Post-it notes and carried those Post-it notes around with me. And then, every once in a while, something would pop in my head. And I said, one day I'm going to write a book or write my thoughts down. And it wound up being a book again, like Trina, during the pandemic. I said, this time has shown me that time waits for no one. You got to get things done that you say you're going to get done. So I gathered those little Post-it notes together in my journals that I had written things in. And there were a couple of women who had it's called Sisters Writing Journey. I have the name mixed up, right? It'll come to me before we hang up. But I sat with them for like 2 days and just put it all together. And I really didn't think it was going to amount to anything except a labor of love that came to completion. And here we are. But it's been wonderful. But it just came out of being a mom who loves her child and wants her to eat better than Pop-Tarts.
Right, right.
As someone who just had a Pop-Tart. Oh,
Yeah, well, we have them too. We have them too.
Yeah.
Real talk.
so Trina, talk to me about this holistic way of thinking and living and being, and how you marry it to Western medicine, and do you marry it to Western medicine? Like, what is the practice?
Well, basically, I call it more of an integrative approach because most of my professional career has been in the traditional public health arena, with more of the modern day, what we call practices as it relates to healthcare. And so I've always, because in my 20s, I started this holistic journey just as a student coming out of college, and met a mentor who mentored me over the years. She was a naturopath. And so I learned different things over the years. And then I kind of put it to the side like we do, and I practice here and there, detox and cleansing, herbal medicine and other things, and for preventative reasons. I didn't have any conditions or anything. And then something hit. I had a baby, I got married, I was trying to work my professional career, and then all of a sudden I started having conditions and a lot of things that I was out of alignment and out of balance. And so I went back to the basics, and it helped me get back to balance and wholeness. And then I started to study it and started to teach it. So it's basically creating a holistic environment where you're using the things we've used always from the beginning of time, things from nature, practices that you use to balance yourself and to keep yourself centered. And that creates an environment for your body to do what it is designed to do.
Mm. So, do you find that Black women in particular are drawn or gravitate toward holistic kinds of things? Because we all grew up with our grandmothers with
Right.
their remedies for things, and our mothers with remedies for things, and we didn't question it. We just was like, all right, you tell me to
Just
drink
did
this
it, right.
hot liquor, I'm gonna drink it. You tell me to put this salve on, I'm gonna put this salve on.
Right.
Do you think that we are uniquely rooted in these practices?
I think so in our culture, but we've lost it. And so because we've become so modernized and so fast-paced, technologically advanced, as we call it, we've lost some of the customs and traditions that our great-great-grandparents brought to America. And they still practice around the world in the Caribbean islands and Africa and other places, but we don't know as African-American women a lot of the things because we haven't passed them down, unfortunately, from grandmother to auntie, to others, or we've lost it along the way. And so this was a reintroduction to that. And that's why the book is called Slow Down by Choice or Lay Down by Force, because now we're forced to go back to some basic principles that have sustained us throughout the beginning of time and from biblical times, but we have lost it. And now we're being forced to go back to some of these things because what we're finding is not really working for our people
Wow.
and masses.
So what are some of the things that most people come to you for? Women, I would assume mostly women, but some men too, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, men
What
too,
are the
but
most
mainly
things that
women.
come? Like what troubles do
Stress-related
they bring
issues.
you?
Yeah,
Okay.
stress-related issues, a lot of chronic conditions that many of us are experiencing in America today, whether it's diabetes, high blood pressure in particular, things that we have come through high stressful and in these contaminated environments that we live in and consume every day. But a lot of it's stress related. And so we get down to the mind, body, spirit connection, because whatever physically is ailing you is also mental and spiritual connection to it as well. So you got to bring all three together. And that's what modern medicine doesn't do. It compartmentalizes to systems and organs and only focuses on the symptom in the system, but not the whole person. And that's what
Wow.
most people, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Erica, this perhaps fits right in with what you're trying to teach what you were trying to teach your daughter with growing some food. Like there's an opportunity here for you to see where food comes from, to eat a little bit better, because we do this together, and you can grow your own food and eat it and find it delicious. Has it been a wonderful experience? Was it challenging? Did she open up to it? Was she very excited, or did you have to just stick with this a little bit?
So it started out relatively easy because, she was younger. And when your children are younger, they haven't really formed they have their opinions, but not as strong as they are now. So she was excited about it. She was, it was time that we spent together growing our vegetables. We even taught her how to read in the produce department at the grocery store. She'd have to identify the letter on the grocery list, and we find, A for apple, and, all those kinds of things you do. So when I started my little Post-it note journey, she was younger, and we tried smoothies, and she was more willing to experiment. What I'm glad about is that because we started when she was younger, she has a pretty robust immune system now. And she, even if it's something that she doesn't like, she knows that eating vegetables is what you need to do. So now she has more of an opinion about, what she does and doesn't like. I respect that. I bring into the house the things that we all like, but, the rule is you got to try it. But now she's 15 and she's like, okay, I tried it and I'm all
Yeah,
set,
like mine.
But because, we started when she was young, and that's really why I wrote this children's book, because if we can start things when they're young, even when we don't know what's right, like Trina was saying, we've gotten away from things, but, in our root, in our, system, we know what's right, and it's easier to come back to than if it's never been introduced in the first place. And if Babz, if you'll allow me, I want to I messed up the name of the group. It was Sisters Writing Circle, and it was Dr. Annette Matlock and Dr. Marion Evans who helped me those 2 days put everything together. And I want to give them credit where credit is due.
Okay, that's wonderful. So Trina, when you started writing this book, did you know you wanted to write a book about this, or did you like, what, I have too much information, I got to get this out to people?
I know, yeah, it's so overwhelming because 25 years of just learning, and there's so much you can focus on. And so, you don't want to, because we have like a 2.5 attention span a day. You don't want to do too much. And I wanted it to be an easy read, because I was thinking of the people that I deal with on a daily basis. And I know that much of the information we hand out, particularly in public health, is really very complicated. It's not, most people have a health literacy level of 4th grade. We found in professional public health. So I wanted it to be an easy read, but I also knew that I needed to get people's attention, because I was so sick and tired of dealing with family and friends who question every little herb I say do, but will take anything and drink and use anything, never question it. So I wanted a catchy title, but I also wanted to use examples in the books of real life people that I've witnessed over the years, that I changed their name, but it's true stories of things that they never would take that time to do self-care and listen to their bodies before it was a crisis or before it was something dramatic. And so I use their examples because I feel like people resonate with real life examples. So that's what I decided. That's how I kind of put it together. And then like her, I used Dr. Soror. I got an indie publishing company to help me put it all together, because I didn't know how to put it all together. I just knew what I wanted to say. And so they helped me through the process of putting everything together, from idea to actual book.
So talk to me about the writing experience, both of you. Like, how did you find the time to do this? I mean, I know we had a whole pandemic that sort of chilled everybody out, slowed everybody down. But even in the pandemic, folks had to work, right? Even if you were able and privileged and able to work from home. I mean, being home wasn't just a leisurely thing. You had to, stack the day in such a way so that you could get stuff done. So how did you find time to sort of create and do these and be focused on pulling together these books?
I really looked at finishing this book as part of my self-care journey. Like a lot of people use self-care as a buzzword. I've taken it to another level and really have it scheduled in my calendar. And so I did that same thing, because I knew if I didn't finish this, it would be something that I would regret. And then that would bother me, and that would be stressful for me. I also knew that this was something that could help other people, in their journey. So I really did. I looked at it like self-care. I scheduled it just like I would schedule massage or a pedicure or, you know, facial or whatever it is, my meditation is scheduled. My prayer time is scheduled. This was a non-negotiable, and I had to do it that way. Probably took me longer than I originally thought it would, but it was time well spent, and it was time spent for Erica to
I
be a
like
blessing
that.
to other people.
I have to get better at scheduling time
Yeah.
in, so I understand that. I mean, I'm always like doing it on the fly, but I know the value of scheduling things in, putting yourself in your schedule so that you take the time. So Trina, I know you know this about self-care because the self-care is the last thing we are willing to do for ourselves.
Right. And so unlike Soror Erica, I wasn't as disciplined. One of the things about me I learned in college and grad school is that I have to have structure and timelines and deadlines, or I would just keep pushing it back. And I knew that this was a divine intervention. I tried to use the quarantine as a positive, even though it was a negative experience universally, that this must be the time I'm supposed to do this, because this is the first time I sat down this long for in a long time. And so what I did was introduced to a book coach who she kept me on deadlines and accountability, because that's what I needed. And so when I knew I had a scheduled meeting with her, I had to have so much of my stuff done before I met with her. And that's one thing, like a professor, I don't want to not have incomplete assignments. So I would make sure that I got everything done. And before you know it, we had written a book in 3 months because she kept me on timelines and deadlines. And that's all I had. We only had a 3-month contract, so I knew I had to have it before, before it was done.
Because time is money.
The publishing part started.
Yes,
this was just the writing part. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Talk to me about Trina, people believing what you put in this book. What is that? Because I could hear in my head when you tell somebody this will help you with this particular issue, and they just push back on you, and you're like, but my doctor said, or my doctor didn't say that, or I don't know. And you know,
in my own home, trust me, in my own home, but they're the worst ones, the people that you're close to. And I'm like, but Mom, you helped pay me before I go to school. I mean, you don't believe me? I mean, you paid for my education just like the rest of them. But yes, that's why I use real life examples, because I felt like if I just say my experience, because I start off with the journey that happened with me after having my daughter, my second daughter, and going through some hormonal imbalances, as you will, and some things that caused me to have to quit my job, actually, because I couldn't even function. But then I go into some stories over the years of people that I know personally who have gone through some real dramatic health crisis, and they had warning signs along the way, but they just chose to forget it. You're too busy with life. You have to work, you have to pay bills. And so you ignore those signals, those yellow, subtle lights that tell you to slow down, to focus on yourself, until you get the red glaring stop sign that says you're going to be forced to now, whether you're in the hospital or you're sick or have some chronic condition. And so that, I think, resonates with people, because that's what people have been telling me as far as feedback, that they really resonated with some of the stories that I told of real life people who had experienced some things, and they said, oh, I'm going through that, or I know people that went through that. And that's why I wanted it to be something that people could really relate to by telling people's journeys.
So Erica, talk to me about, I would imagine you probably looked for a book similar to your book out there that sort of did some of the same things and didn't find it.
There were lots of books out there that talked about the importance of vegetables and what vegetables are, but I wanted it to be a book for Black children. And not that white children can't enjoy it. In fact, I encourage it, because there's just a couple of mentions of like collard greens and things like that that might not necessarily be a staple in a white household like it is in the Black household. And I've had lots of support from everybody, from all races, but that was what was missing for me. I made a concerted effort when Zaria was little to make sure she had Black books, Black authors, Black characters. You know, if you see it, you can be it. So that was it. I said, well, I have to write the same, because I know most of us are on that same journey. We raise our children the same way. So I wanted to, to be part of that. That's what was missing for me.
Mm. And
I want
so,
to get the book now for some of my.
well, I want yours. So it's
I know.
a mutual admiration
I'm
society
thinking
here.
too. I'm like, okay, I need Trina's book because I'm centering myself back into my wellness practices because I've had some health challenges and I've overcome some. And I'm like, all right, let me get more foundational about how to do this moving forward as I think about turning 60 in 2 years, right?
Oh, wow.
And I
want my Thank you. But I want my 60s to. I want to age well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I want to age well, and I realized I really don't know how to do that. Like I really don't know how to age well, except wash my face, brush my teeth, walk, exercise, drink water. But I think it's a little deeper than that. I think I need to be a little more.
And Dr. Christine Northrup, I don't know if you've ever,
I know her very well.
She talks about, I use her quote all the time. She says, growing older is inevitable. Aging is optional. We don't have to age. That's why they say black don't crack. I'm actually 54 in April. So yeah, people always say, well, you're 54, but yeah, aging is a deterioration process when you talk about from the cellular level. But growing older, this is something we're going to do, and we could do it gracefully, beautifully. Yes. We could do it in a way that resonates with who we are. And so I don't like using the word aging because that means that we're slowly deteriorating, that we're growing older.
We're
I'm going to remove from my vocabulary.
Our new season. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like that very much. So, in talking about your books and in the genres that you are have written these books, are there other books that will come out of this? Are you interested in part 2 or another book? Or
the only thing I've thought about is this one centers around dinner, so I've thought about breakfast. And I've, just other meal times. I've thought about adding other vegetables in it, other conversations, maybe, because this centers around this little girl who's patterned after my daughter. So maybe other children hearing their voices and having more realistic conversations. But to be honest with you, time frames, when that might happen, I have so many other things. I'm one of these people that just loves to be busy and loves different, to have lots of interests, as I'm sure we all do. So the second book has not dropped in my spirit when that would happen.
All right. I'm agreeing with you, Soror. It was a journey. It was definitely a journey. I'm glad I did it. I definitely have been blessed. It's been 1 year probably since I released it in April of last year. And actually I'm working on the audio version now. So that will be coming out probably the anniversary of when it was released. Because I felt like people need to hear it, not just read it, because when you hear it, the stories, I think more people are audio. But I definitely want to write components because people say, well, I want to hear more on this part, because on some of the chapters I talk about some of the different therapies and practices that I used over the years, like aromatherapy, herbal health, things like that, essential oils, which have been used since the beginning of time, frankincense and myrrh, all those things that they had in biblical times. I could just write books just alone on those sections alone. And so people wanted more information just on that, even though it's out here. So if I did do second books, it probably would be more in depth on some components. And I have many more stories I could tell about other people and their journeys to be forced to slow down.
Listen, I understand that. I understand it. And but as I have gotten older, I recognize exactly what you said, Trina, that if you get the signals along the way. My sister likes to say, God will whisper to you and then you'll get the slap. Like if you ignore the whisper,
I told you.
Yes,
you
the bullhorn and then the slap, and still will question.
And still will question.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
And we'll get up off of a almost deathbed to go do something for somebody else, and we'll do it for ourselves.
Right.
Which has got me thinking about. I had hip replacement surgery last year and this year, both hips, And the immobility of that is really was the catalyst for how I want to grow old, and how I want to live out I mean, I don't have another 60 years in front of me, right? So I want these next years to be as good as they could possibly be, as I could make them, and creating practices that sort of support that. I mean, I think, Erica, you talking about scheduling things is so purposeful and intentional. And I don't know if people are afraid to do that, or they don't see the value in that, or it makes them
I
nervous to do that.
I didn't always do that. And so there were too many things that were falling through the cracks. There were too many things that just weren't getting done that I wanted to get done. And I've heard it for years, schedule this. I mean, I schedule everything. Doesn't mean that I don't still drop balls, because I do. But I'll recognize that it's a dropped ball because the alarm will go off on my phone and say, you were supposed to do, it's just a much more effective way for me to live my life, especially as women, because we're not only managing our lives, right? We are the air traffic controllers of our household, sometimes our careers, whatever. And if you've got, children and spouses and elderly aging parents, whomever, you've got community service, we're all, doing public service through our sorority, all those things. And then, like you said, Babz, you get to the end of the day, you're exhausted, but you've done nothing for yourself. You've got to, you can't pour from an empty cup, so that's the only way I can fill my cup, is just to put little slots of time in my schedule.
I love it. So, Trina, give me 5 things that women can do in these moments. 5 easy things that we could do to change the quality
Get my pen.
of our. I know, right? I'm like, this is recorded, so I'm gonna go back and listen to it. Give us 5 to 10 things that we could do immediately that I know we're not doing, that we could do to start to change the trajectory of our busyness.
Well, one of the things, let me think on something. I normally say that I believe in meditation, taking that quiet time, whether it's in the morning. And people think meditation is this long, exhausted process. It could just be being silent and grounding yourself in the morning before you start your day. I find that helps to center me. So meditating during the day, meaning taking pauses, doing deep breathing. I find that if I do deep breathing, it helps to bring oxygen to my brain. It helps me to relax if I'm anxious. Those are things that you can do every day. And most people aren't breathing properly anyway, but that's a whole nother lesson. So deep breathing. I tell people, because we're in this COVID environment, many of us, including myself, are still working from home, to get out every day and get some vitamin D, sunshine. You have to get out, even especially in these cold winter weather. It creates depression. It creates people tiredness and things like that, lack of motivation. So getting out into the sun, whether I open my blinds or just take a walk, or sometimes I just go and ride somewhere and play some nice music just to break up the monotony of my day. I think that helps keep me centered and grounded. I always say we could talk about supplements, but taking some type of nourishing supplement a day. Unfortunately, our foods are void of a lot of vitamins and minerals. So I always recommend some form of supplementation, particularly for women. As we grow older, we lose some of the minerals and everything through the aging process. So we have to supplement that. And I always say music. Music is soothing to the soul. I love music. It gets me motivated. It calms me down. It relaxes me, but it also gets me excited about life. So I don't know, I could think of so many other things that we could do, but doing some daily regimen or practice that you could commit to yourself, that's separate from, like Sorors said, Erica, family, and all your responsibilities, is something that you create. And it could be individualized just for you, that you practice every single day, whether it's exercise, meditation, movement, getting that body moving. Is something that I think every person should do. Create a ritual that you do every day.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So I don't want y'all to go before we talk about the business of selling books And how do you do that? How do you create opportunities to get your book out there? And do you have to learn um, um, on the fly, or do you approach this the same way you approach everything? You start mapping out a plan and you do all the things. How do you sell the books?
Well, I've had lots of suggestions about ways that I can sell it and places that I can sell it, but almost like the audience that I'm trying to attract, I am trying to show up. I am showing up in places where they are. So there's lots of, first of all, I've been selling them right from home. I'll ship them out. I've got an assistant who helps me with other things, and she'll ship them out for me. But when I want to show up, I show up at Black boutiques or bookstores, or I've been invited to book signings where I'll bring my books, a real grassroots effort. I haven't gone to any of the big box opportunities. I just haven't done that. I don't think they need anything from me. This book is for my community. It's for little people. I didn't do it to generate any kind of income. Income is nice, though. Don't get me wrong, but that wasn't the motivation, you know. So I've not done any of the big things like your. I'm not going to mention names, but you know what I say when I say big box or whatever. That's not the route that I've taken. I do admire it for people who have, but mine is more of a grassroots effort. And maybe one day I will go that route, but I haven't so far.
Trina?
Well, for me, because I went with the indie publishing, the part of the package is that they put you on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and other platforms. But I also have my own website that I had also offered for the Delta's Author on Tour, which they order right through my website, like Soror, Erica said, and then I ship it personally. That's the most profit-driven way to do it. Because the other places get their cut. Also have a couple local bookstores. We have a Black-owned bookstore here in Harrisburg, which I did my virtual launch. We've had to be very creative because our books have been released through a COVID pandemic. So I had to do a virtual launch. And so, and I did it in the bookstore, and that way it brought some attention to his bookstore and my book. And then during the summer, I did a couple, like she said, community events where I did table events, workshops and things like that to try to get it out. So this is the year I want to kind of expand beyond my family, friends, and local environment and try to get out here more.
Well, I mean, I think that's the beauty of the Delta Authors on Tour, that we're gathering and people can have access to these books in a larger audience. The actual event, I think, is like April 9th. Of the Delta's Authors on Tour. And I will see you all again because there's more that we're going to be doing together for the Delta's Author on Tour for the Southeast region. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've truly enjoyed talking to you both today about your books. And I'm looking for, I can't wait to get your books in my hands. I'm really on a book buying moratorium until I read what I already have on the
Look
floor.
At all the ones behind me.
I know.
I can't. I can't even. It's like Walmart. I can't go in the bookstore. I can't. Just leave with so many books.
Some people like shoes. I like shoes too, but I love books. I love books.
Oh my God.
I love books.
I've got them
and I love Audible too for Trina.
So I said, I'm
getting in the auto.
I'm looking forward to that
because I'm not used to that because I just still like to put my hand on a book.
Yes.
I don't like those Kindles. You know, I like to still have a book. But I know this is the new way of doing things, so I have to pivot. So.
Yes.
Well, I have a lot of windshield time, so the Audible helps me, and a lot of them have whisper.
Yeah, that's what people
pick it up where you're done speaking, then you can pick it right back up and read it too. So yeah.
Well, since I started riding my bike again, it's nice to listen to a book while I'm riding my stationary bike in the house.
That's a great
idea. Yeah, that's what they said. So that's why I took that opportunity. I said, well, let me turn it into.
Yes,
well, thank y'all so much. I so appreciate the opportunity to talk with y'all about your books. I have learned so much, and I'm looking forward to having all these more books in my house on the floor so I can get to them.
Thanks for having us. This was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will I'll see you all around. Enjoy your weekends, please.
You
Enjoy your
too.
weekends.
Thank
You too. You too.
And I will see some of y'all later.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
weekend. Harry, thank you very much and have a good weekend. And I'll be back on Monday with more conversation and shenanigans. Hi, this is Babz Rawls-Ivy from New Haven, Connecticut, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, streaming live at newhavenindependent.org.